Okay, TRK, calm down. There you go, TRK. Hey! Six. Oh. TRK, I don't think that's how football works. Hey, Kerberos, bro, what's up? Oh, that was kind. Yeah, I forgot about the health pack there. Nice shot. Domino's is good. Did you get that, TRK? How to get a minigun on eBay? Well, Kerberos, bro. I think you're gonna have to talk to... Honestly, I think one of the only ways you could even fire a minigun legally is you'd have to talk to some, like... You have to go to, like, some military base, some, like, arms specialist. Like, they have minigun... There's things as, like weapon museums, but even then, a weapon museum probably wouldn't let you pick up a minigun and fire it. I mean, that's just a good question in general. How do you fire a mini... what's a good legal way to fire a minigun? Ooh, good flare. A good arrow too, yeah. Lego Star Wars on the PSP. Oh my gosh. Yeah, they have the Avatar too. I think that's like one of the first guys in the Phantom Menace cutscene. That's funny. Oh. Nice. Good flank. I know you like Jar Jar, TRK. I actually have always liked Jar Jar too. But see, I liked him because, you know, Phantom Menace came out in '99, so I was 4 years old. I did think he was funny. But, you know, TRK over here, he's like, oh, when I found out people hate him and people find him annoying, he became my favorite character. Well, TRK, some people find Sax annoying. Why isn't he your favorite community member? Ooh. Good backstab. I passed Spanish 1. And it's the cow from Moo Moo Meadows, oh my gosh, as their avatar. I don't know if this is the same pyro, but there's been some insane flares this this game, which is cool to see from the red team that I've witnessed. Your favorite rival. Oh, Kerberos, bro, you're onto something. Yeah, there is a similarity because they were dueling on, you know, these narrow bridges. And definitely a reactor, because the place where they dueled Darth Maul was a it was a plasma facility. It was like a plasma mining, like, it was a docking bay, but also a plasma. Well, so like, I know this because of there's a Darth Plagueis novel that's really good in Star Wars, and they talk about that. You know, in episode 1, they talk about the Trade Federation. Well, a big thing that Naboo was known for was plasma. And so, like, where they dueled Darth Maul, you can see those giant plasma, like, extractors and containers. So, I don't know if that place specifically... Well, that was, like, Theed Palace. I don't think they were mining plasma there. But it could be. I'd have to look more into it. In fact, look at this. Don't you love the internet? Darth Maul, and then you'll get his Wikipedia page, and then hopefully it'll tell the location if you go to like Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, Duel on Naboo, bam! Where is the location? I feel like it'd have a name here. The Royal Palace, okay. Yeah, I don't think the Royal Palace is mining plasma, but I think Naboo's so big with maintaining it that that's why you saw it in there.
Mission begins in 30 seconds. Mission begins in 10 seconds.
maneuver. Hey, what's going on? Oh, that was a good jump. I was watching some TF2 Highlander last night. I was finishing the full stock match that happened because the item server was gone. There were some crazy spy plays. As the commentator said, there was one that looked like Assassin's Creed. It was on Upward. It was, yeah, really good play. Nice. You oh no. Well, I'm glad you're still around. It is one of the best games ever made. Ooh. Nice double rocket combo. Dang, I see the vision. Yeah, they were... That was a good pursuit on the medic pyro Uber there. Good flare. No, I don't. We talked about this last time. I don't add people unless they've been on the community for quite a while. That's just a strict boundary rule I have. You can join the server I'm on, but I don't leave the server usually, and I don't add people until they've been in the community for quite some time. And also, that stuff starts adding up if I do it for everyone, so... It's like I said, it's a boundary because there's a lot of people that want to be added, so you have to constantly add people, and then your list gets pretty full. And so also I don't know a lot of people when they do this, so the threshold is if you're part of the community for a while, then you can be considered being added. So that's just I do that for everyone. So. Yeah. It's just I have to do it for everyone. It's just like a rule you have to set because it can get out of hand really fast. I'm not saying you would do it, but I've had people already like early on they will like mass message me and stuff, and it can get out of hand. So I have to set that rule ASAP. But you're welcome to tune into broadcast talk. You're welcome to join this server. I don't know what part of the world you're in, so there is a ping thing you have to take note of, but nice. Yeah, the capping, sneaking scout, that was good. Premium box? Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean by premium box? Oh wow, very specific backstab angle there. Yeah, tier 2 is free to play. I just don't know what you mean by premium box. Are you talking about a promotion on your account for TF2? You can just buy one item and then you'll get promoted. My friend Michael Torres, he bought a sombrero. He loves that hat for sure. For demo man. Yeah, yeah. Nice. This is actually my favorite weapon set right here, which is Degreaser, Default Flare Gun, and the Power Jack. I like every weapon in TF2, but that's a good question. What's your favorite weapon set? So when I mean weapon set, I mean, yeah, your primary, secondary, and melee. So this is my favorite weapon set in the game for sure. Ooh, good shot.
Mission ends in 30 seconds.
Sentry forward, that's right. Good strategy overall, especially on payload offense here. Gotta read the game state. That's funny. I like that. Good shot. But yeah, you gotta read the game state and where you can land your, put your sentry down on the offense. Like about right here, you. Okay, I might sneak in a sentry, like right there. So you know, I'm trying to read to go minis or not. Ooh, that might be a spy. Oh, hey, how's it going? Let's do this. Hey, what's up, lasagna? Just play until 2 o'clock, and then a little bit after that I'll go pick up Michael and we'll head to your place. It's the way that Heavy says put dispenser here. The way he says D sounds like a T, so people made a joke that it's, oh, pootis, you know. But like Sniper will say put a dispenser here. So that's not really, that doesn't sound like pootis, you know. Oh, I need to send you something, Lasagna. I finished the all-stock, top-level competitive TF2 match. And one of the sniper players, they were on King of the Hill. It was like against a demo man and a soldier. And the sniper on the hill went guns a-blazing with the SMG and killed both of them. It was nuts. I think that was a sniper that's very good at recognizing the game state, and they heard their comms. I think their team was saying that they're both lit, and so the sniper just went SMG mode. SMG's cool. It's another testament of how high rewarding TF2 is with skill, because it's not a broken weapon. But in that instance, I don't think the opposing team even, like, they might not have expected, even though it was all stock. Like, imagine how much they're accustomed to, like, Girardi, right? Or the Cozy Camper. And so for that sniper player to quickly adapt and be like, oh, I could get 2 kills here. That's really cool. It's okay if you don't like SMG. Well, at least you're humble. That's a good way to recognize why, you know. I love SMG, but I appreciate your honesty, and you know, TF2 is the game where you can always improve at something. SMG's interesting. It's not. Yeah, you pepper them. Yeah, that's Lasagna said it. Lasagna's a very good sniper player, and he just said it very well. SMG, I think the fallacy is people think, oh, it's literally a submachine gun. It's an Uzi. You know, I can just like spray and pray, but they designed it to where obviously sniper is not going to be like heavy. But like Lasagna said, you can pepper your opponent, or in the case of the top level match I brought up, the sniper player heard that, like, I think the sniper player heard on the communication that 2 of the opposing team members were like very low on health, and so instead of trying to go for 2 sniper shots, just get out the SMG. You know what's also on the threshold is like Girardi is very popular and rightfully so, but honestly, here's the thing: if I was playing medic with Kritzkrieg, I would like to, in the future, hopefully, I'd like to try out Kritzkrieg on a sniper with SMG. I feel like you could actually clean up pretty well. I actually think that's a bit underrated. Now, obviously, there is, like, the priority... Like, there is, like, the average damage per second list for, like, Uber targets. Like, you know, Demo Man is on the top, the highest, like, overall priority, and then it's, Heavy, and then it's Pyro and Soldier. But then after that, it kind of dives... You know, you're starting to dive into, like, the pit classes. And so with Sniper, you know, some people joke like, oh, is Sniper gonna get out melee? Or sometimes a Sniper will stand still while Ubered. But when it's Kritzkrieg, yeah, I feel like you could definitely try like a Kritzkrieg SMG. I mean, you could try stock Uber SMG, but I feel like you could clean up, you know? Yeah, that's true. That's the snowball effect, because Soldier does that. You know, when Soldier uses his banners, if a soldier gets Ubered and just kills a bunch with the Uber, he already built his banner. Then he uses the banner, and sometimes that banner can snowball into another, like, team fight that your team just kind of wins overall. So there's definitely, like, there could be a Sniper's own version of a snowball. It's interesting. I mean, obviously, yeah, the SMG isn't designed to be a minigun. But it's cool. It's a cool emergency weapon, and honestly, I think it's an underrated close-range weapon. I will check for you after this. You can ask. I mean, you can ask Lasagna. He's a very good sniper player. I will share mine though if I die. Okay, so I'm currently on 2.95. So, also this looks updated. That's pretty cool. I haven't gone to that setting in a while. What's funny is you're talking to a Pyro main and a Sniper main that both play like a very, very, very high learning curve weapon as their main. So I use default flare gun, and Lasagna uses the Bizarre Bargain, and both of those require like, I mean, like a very high like precision aim, because you're losing certain initial things. Like you don't have the initial damage of stock with the Bizarre Bargain, and with the flare gun you lose the splash damage from like detonator and scorch shot. But the reward can be very high if you keep honing that. So both of us, I guess, to consider our mouse sensitivity is it's also like working in tangent with that. You know, this is a very like predict, lead your shots kind of weapon. And you know, the sniper rifle is very much a blend of read and reactions. Yeah, Demo Man's fun. Ooh, that was cool. Yeah, it's good to test around. I think obviously like a lot of people, like when I was a kid, like when I was younger and you really discover like mouse sensitivity for games, you know, it is funny to turn it on really high. But yeah, as time goes on, like Lasagna's saying, you often go on like below average to maybe average mouse sensitivity, because sometimes you can just overshoot if it's like way too high. In fact, when I play Metroid Prime Hunters, I'm on very low sensitivity. That's not just for me playing on mouse and keyboard. That was also like at the when I got back into competing in 2020. Another reason why average to lower mouse sensitivity tends to be used is when you already line up your shot. Like, look at this here, like with the spy. See that? Like, the demo man can only run so fast. So if your mouse is too fast, you can be overshooting. You could be, you know, missing your shots. But when it's at like, see my mouse here? Like, you have to consider the average run speed of a TF2 class. And so being able to track without overshooting like, you know, like that is pretty big. I mean, it's like Lasagna said, everyone has kind of different mouse sensitivity. But like I said, something to consider is that, you know, aside from the Scout, TF2 characters aren't going at Scout speed. So when you watch like a PvP encounter, you're like this here. See how fast the sniper's running? He's not running like super fast. So if your mouse is at a lower sensitivity, you can kind of track and predict with a lot of precision. Especially classes like Heavy or like Engineer and Scout that use like the pistol. Like, it's important to work with a mouse sensitivity that is good for you, but that's also, you can kind of track your opponent's movement. There you go. T-pose Heavy. Oh, another thing I saw, Lasagna, is in the all-stock competitive match, there was a Heavy that on payload defense recognized that they have to keep moving because they have to like rotate to hold a choke point. And so they're like, oh, I'll just get out my shotgun because I'm literally having to move. And they got a kill with the shotgun. It was so awesome. Like, Sandwich is really good, so to have that all-stock match show like a top-level Heavy shotgun kill was really cool. And it wasn't just like, haha, I'm doing this just to make jokes. No, they actually were getting out the shotgun because they had to rotate with their team. That was a good jump by that Heavy. Yeah, the bot problem's is still pretty bad. Thankfully on the Uncletopia servers, it has a heavy bot filter, so they're like never here. I've never encountered a bot here, as far as I've known. I don't know what region of the Earth you're on, like what continent, but there's probably an Uncletopia server you could go to, and then you wouldn't have to really worry about bots when you play. It was really cool, Lasagna. I'm gonna use it for like future videos because I think it's important to talk about adapting to something that's ironically like vanilla. But that's a testament to how strong TF2 stock weapons are. It's like one of the only competitive games I know with updates where stock doesn't really get power crept, like, at all. And the commentators pointed out, they're like, wow, this is all stock, but this still looks like top-level Highlander. But that's also just a testament to stock. You know, I've been wanting to use stock revolver more as spy, and it's a lot of fun. Where is our medic? Okay, 65. Okay, I gotta protect this medic. We have a time for like one Uber if they stay alive, so. Who they Uber to? I mean, some of those bots really are just controlled by one person, and they'll just have like a computer on auto. It's just very sad that they can kind of exploit that without being punished and stuff. Ooh, good hold. No, here, look at this. I'm gonna help you out. You should check this out. Go on here, community server, right? And all you need to do is type in UNC. I don't know if you have like another language that you tend to speak or something, but in English, type in UNC, and you're gonna see all these Uncletopia servers. And I mean, there's Uncletopia in France. There's Uncletopia in the United Kingdom, Australia, Hong Kong. So hopefully there's a region for you, and I'd recommend going on those servers. You're like, it's a very heavy bot filter. So you're like I said, I have not yet seen a bot when I'm playing here. I've been playing here for quite a while. So Lasagna was actually the one that mentioned Uncletopia to me for the first time. Quite a while back now, and yeah, it's been great. Oh, in your web browser, yeah. That's the list of servers. You can click like a join button if your Steam is connected to the website. Yeah. Uncle Dane has a website, and it shows all the servers and their activity. That was a good reflect.
We have lost the control point.
Nice. Indonesia, they can't cover, I mean, he has to buy all those servers. So all those servers cost money. I would just pick a location close to Indonesia, and I think you're good. Ooh, good. Good grenade, good grenade. I think if you find a place that's close to Indonesia on that list, I think you're gonna have just a good time overall compared to the casual queue right now because of all the bots everywhere still, sadly. But also, Uncletopia just tends to have a lot of like mid to top level players. So if you're looking for like very like experienced players to play against, which can help you improve a lot, it's really good. I don't mind playing as any like level of player, but it's cool to have. I've seen competitive players on here recently. I played against them / like with them, and it is cool to see that. Basically what happens is there's what's called pugs or pickup games, and they usually happen late at night. So when there's no pugs, a lot of the competitive players I've noticed, like the mid-top level players, tend to go here. Yeah, that was sad that they did that. I mean, I like that Valve replied, but it just shows how much there's internal peer pressure to work on TF2 at Valve when their priority is kind of hardware. I don't mean that in a mean way. That's just kind of a byproduct of the irony of their work, the way they like their work structure is. So it's like, oh, you can work on whatever you want, but because of things like an annual employee peer review, there's just that unsaid peer pressure of, oh, you worked on TF2 a lot this year, you might get a more not as positive of a review. Like I said, I can't buy servers for Uncle Dane. So basically the server list you see is your list of options. So again, my advice is to, I mean, there's Hong Kong, Australia, Europe, United States, and hopefully you can find a server that's close to you. So well, TRK, we gotta be humble. Do I want the Chiefs to win? That'd be awesome, but it's important to be humble. Unfortunately, I will say I've known people that they talk about being Chiefs fans, but they're very toxic, and when the Chiefs lose, they get very bad. In fact, they trash talk like the Chiefs. I'm like, okay, you're not a good fan. Like, it gets really bad. I'm like a two-faced fan. They only like it when they win. I'm like, yikes. And the Chiefs, for decades, we didn't make playoffs a lot, just overall. So it makes you wonder what they were like back then. Solar Light. He could. I don't know what servers he tends to play on. He really could. I've seen, you know, like I said, he doesn't really play competitive, but I've seen a few competitive players on here that I recognize. You don't like the Chiefs? That's okay if you don't like the Chiefs. I don't know why you dislike the Chiefs. Hopefully it's not for a petty reason. I like the Chiefs. Well, I wouldn't blame the Chiefs on that. That's just people being awful and not containing themselves. I mean, I hope the best for his job and his workflow, but like I said, the Chiefs haven't really been to playoffs that much in multiple decades. It's so funny when people are trying to make accusations of, oh, bandwagons, and well, it's like, oh no, like Chiefs fans have been tried and true for decades, and that hasn't changed now. They've been playing very well lately. Yeah, Chiefs are my favorite team, along with the Colts. So it's Chiefs and then like an honorable mention to the Colts. For baseball, it's Royals. Honorable mention to the Mariners. When I was a kid and I found out the Mariners were owned by Nintendo, that's so awesome. And they even have like Nintendo sound effects that play in the Mariners Stadium. That's such a good use of copyright you have. Nah, they're not the new Patriots. They, again, decades without making it into the playoffs. They have a good coach, good like team overall. But if you're talking about new Patriots, like people are being narrow-minded and just hating them because they're winning, that's an unfortunate truth. And you would hope that people are just better sports and they recognize it's like you know what this is? Lasagna, it's like being a Yoshi fan for years and years. And then Amsa or Yoshi starts winning a lot more, and now people are like, oh, I hate Yoshi. Yoshi's awful, or Yoshi's broken. It's like, Amsa's really good. And in this case, the Chiefs drafted really well, and Andy Reid's a good coach. And we've just had that grit of keeping at it year after year. You know, sadly, the mindset of, like, the people that win a lot more are just going to get a lot of haters, despite a backstory of how much work it took. Yeah. I do like the Dolphins. Pretty cool team. That was a good video by Emplemon, too. I mean, that's a good question, Lasagna. I've kind of thought the same thing. Obviously, it's the overarching, like, I like the Chiefs. You know, I like their team colors. Arrowhead's a cool stadium. I love Kansas City. And there are players that stick around for quite a few years, or like Coach Andy Reid. But I know what you're asking. Like, it's that, what's the term? It's the, was it Shipathesius almost, where after a few years, because so many players get drafted over to another team or contracted, the Chiefs from like 10 years ago might not even be there. But you know, baseball's even worse. Baseball has like baseball is very loose contract stuff. Thankfully the NFL is a lot more consistent with, like, players have to stick around for at least a few years overall. But baseball is like, the Royals won the World Series in 2015, and a bunch of the players got, like, immediately shipped out or, like, contracted out to new teams. And I don't hate the Yankees, I don't hate the Red Sox, but those really big teams that accumulate a lot of wealth because, you know, fan base, and then they win and win and win and win. There's no, like, basically league like no league rule that stops them from just like, oh, the Royals just won, they got a lot of players, let's buy them out. So, but at least with the NFL, there's at least a few years that, you know, players tend to have to, like, stick with the team. Well, the Chiefs have maintained, I mean, Patrick Mahomes has had a contract. Like, was it like a 10-year contract? That's really good. And the MLB, that's like basically unheard of in comparison. Oh yeah, I mean, you shouldn't hate a tactic that's allowed in the game. You're just making things very insufferable for yourself. You got to be a realist when you compete and stuff, because they're allowed to do it, and you either adapt or keep complaining, and you're gonna just have a not fun time overall. That's kind of the beauty of competition, kind of like what we're talking about with football and baseball. You can do whatever you want within the rule set to win. So what you're talking about with sticky bombs, yeah, sticky bombs are good. Demo Man gets countered by Scout. He can get countered by Heavy. And so you need to hone, like, as a pyro player, I'm like, okay, if I protect my heavy, then he could, like, mow down the demo man. Stuff like that. Or if I protect my sniper, the sniper could take out the demo man. Sniper's also a pretty good counter overall. So, you know, it's all about adaptation. And there's no such thing as a tryhard, because like I said, if you can do whatever you want within the rule set to win. So you can try to write them off as a tryhard, but they're playing the game. Now, a cheater is a cheater, obviously, but thankfully in video games, unless it's like the bot thing, it's very hard to actually cheat, and if you do, it usually gets caught. Kind of like Lasagna can tell you, there was an instance in Melee a few years ago where someone like modified Pichu in Melee and started beating a bunch of people with like a buffed Pichu, but they were not competent about buffing Pichu. It was way too deliberate. It's like, yo man, if you're gonna try to do like a phantom buff, it should have been like small percentages across the board. I think people still would have caught on in a pretty small window. So it's like, it's just funny how incompetent they were at like cheating. Well, see, that's the thing. You're saying ruins my play, but you're entering the game with expectations. If you're already entering the game with expectations, that can create anger if that expectation is not met. You got to play with like, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna keep improving. And you have to understand there are people that are also playing to win the objective too. See, I'm not gonna get mad at this spy for backstabbing me. I need to turn around a lot more, and in a case like this, I need to track what tendencies this spy is doing. It's probably, I mean, it's probably ping and computer. I don't want you to feel bad. So you see this right here, Spire fan? My ping's 24. That's why, like, I was, you know, if you can find an Uncletopia server that's close to where you live, it's going to be very helpful. But I don't know your computer specs. This is a relatively new refurbished computer from last year, and it's like an esports computer, and it was originally added like an esports center, and it's really good. So I got it for a good deal. Yeah, I would just do a little bit of research with that Uncletopia list and try to find a place that's close to Indonesia. Just try it. That's my advice, is definitely try it. Try to go on a server. Wait, is this I'm trying to look at their degreaser. Hold on. Okay, they're gonna respawn. If I die, they're gonna respawn sooner than me. Okay, I made it out. I need to look at that pyro player's degreaser, because it might be a pyro player I just interacted with on Twitter this morning. I did not know they were on Uncletopia Chicago. Maybe it's their first time, but... Well, you can say your laptop is fine, but I had a gamer laptop for years, like a gaming laptop, and it had over the years it started to have problems with overheating. So I had to like change the thermal paste and stuff. And even then, it just started deteriorating a bit. All right, let's look at this pyro player's degreaser. No, okay, this is a different pyro player, but I like their degreaser too. when we go to the next map, I'm gonna show you this pyro player I interacted with on Twitter, and I love their degreaser, but it was also part of a really funny clip. So I definitely would have liked to see you play that Pichu player, Lasagna. They just were not competent with like phantom buffs. There's a way that you could make like kind of competent phantom buffs and probably make it a lot harder to pick up on, but they did not do it. It was way too blunt. Well, 2012 can play TF2, but if it's like used from 2012, you need to check out your thermal paste. You might have like non-existent thermal paste at this point to like nothing. Thermal paste is very important. It literally stops overheating. So I would look into how to like change thermal paste, like open up your laptop. But like Lasagna said, 2006 is now considered like really old in terms of like a computer. It's a good century. Oh wow, 2 million laptop? Did you win the lottery? Is the laptop gonna make 3D printed food that you could eat too? Dang. I think you could, hopefully you can find a pretty inexpensive laptop. I got this tower for like, oh my gosh, it was like a really cheap price. It was like, what, $500 for like what this is? Like, this is gonna last for a long time. And my friend Michael Torres pointed out, it's easy to like modify it in the future. Okay, let me pull up this tweet. Okay, boop the boppy, go to replies. Here it is. Yeah, look at this player's degreaser. I think Lasagna will like this. Also, this is technically a Market Gardener crit kill. Look at this soldier on the ramp. But yeah, that's an awesome degreaser. So I thought I was like, oh, is this the same player? But no, it's a different degreaser design. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, that was a cool Market Gardener kill, for sure. Oh my gosh, Lasagna. During that Highlander match, the stock one, there was a guy that tried to, so they were playing on Upward, and there was a guy that tried to make a comment saying like, if this was sixes, the match would have been over by now. And let's just say they got called out a little bit. And it's just funny to hear that because it's Upward. Like, sixes does not play payload, sixes doesn't play much attack and defend. Well, for me in fasting, I guess the closest I have to that is there are times at night I like, ooh, I could just eat a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but I do feel like sometimes I don't eat a lot of dinner, and so I do get hungry late at night, but honestly, if I go to bed and wake up, I'm not hungry anymore. Wow, jeez, I didn't say that, but it was funny that they tried to say that in like a European TF2 League broadcast when, you know, the majority of players there were there to, you know, watch Highlander. Which is sad. I feel like that comment's kind of catering to what we've talked about lately, Lasagna, where like some people have this like fairly low attention span for competition, and so like things like defense just make them go ballistic. It's got to be like super hyper aggro, Quake-esque frag montage priority. I hope I make it into the kill video. Like, that's why I compete priority list. It's like, oh geez, is Quake fun? Yes, but it's just like, oh man, guys, you guys just go crazy when someone like a heavy winds up his gun. Well, we had a summer and winter update, and there was like one other update last year. I mean, we still get updates. They're mainly like community involved for content, but that's really cool that Valve allows for that to happen and kind of like has a filter for that. I kind of talked about that earlier on the stream. It's just the way Valve's employee structure is. You're allowed to have free reign for whatever project you work on at Valve. There's no one telling you you have to do this. But a downside to that is they still have like annual employment peer reviews. So it's not that Gabe Newell is saying don't work on TF2. It's that there's this internalized peer pressure of, oh, if I work on TF2 and too much of it, I might get lower peer reviews because I wasn't working on hardware, which is the priority right now of Valve. At Valve. Yeah, that's what I meant by fall, Halloween, you know. Nice. Yeah, it seems like they still kind of holding the flank a bit with like poking rockets. Yeah, I gotta be careful. That was good. My own stickies.
The bloody cart's not moving.
Because Monoculus is Demo Man's missing eye, and the reason it's missing is because Marasmus cursed it, and it became Monoculus the monster. That is why people ask, like, how come in Meet the Medic repaired Scout's tooth? Like, he's literally repairing a bone, but he couldn't repair Demo Man's eye. And they actually explained it that Marasmus cursed his eye, so it's a curse, not like an injury. Ironically, if that curse was ever, quote, lifted, you know, the general consensus is that people would say that Demo Man with both eyes showing is cursed. I don't mind it, it's just, yeah, that's kind of the irony, is like, he's so associated with the eye patch, you know? Good backstab. Hey Vance, yeah, go Chiefs for sure. We for sure would have loved you at the Super Bowl party that Lasagna's hosting, but I know you're out west.
Attention. 5 minutes left in the mission. 5 minutes left in the mission.
The cards just sit there.
Do you got your Chiefs attire on? TRK does in the Netherlands. That was funny and cool to see. That I know he was talking about that yesterday. He's like, should I wear my Chiefs shirt? I was like, oh yeah. So I'm glad that TRK is wearing the Chiefs shirt today. Nice.
Home ain't moving.
Oh, washing it. Gotcha. Yeah, I have a Super Bowl. I have like a Chiefs shirt. I'm gonna definitely wear tonight. I was at Target the other day, and my friend Jonathan brought this up years ago because he's got 2 little girls, and he's right. It's like it really is like the mind of a child, and like picking up on their observations and hearing like their brains like just grow over time with those observations is something that you don't want to like. It's something that, I mean, obviously like psychology majors love studying, but it is just interesting to catch life moments where kids are observing these kind of sensations we do, these phenomena. So for example, I'm about to put on my Chiefs shirt for tonight. Vance is about to put on his. And I was at Target the other day, and there was a kid asking their mom about, Mom, if you know, they're basically asking like, do people wear Chiefs shirts because they keep winning? And they're basically asking if the Chiefs weren't winning, would this like be gone / or like be on sale / be gone? It was just very interesting to hear that because they were so young, and so this is probably one of the first times they're observing that kind of sports wave phenomenon. And I'll tell you, Target Hy-Vee, they got a lot of stuff for like not just Chiefs, but like especially Hy-Vee because of all the bakery stuff. But like it is interesting to witness that, and they are like experiencing like just a citywide wave. Businesses are like going crazy in a good way. You know, bars are packed across the city, and grocery stores and stores, people are buying stuff. I mean, I went to Target to buy this and the mint fudge cookies. So it's like, even, you know, I was partaking in that wave, you know, Super Bowl party tonight. Yeah, I don't really watch much of Solar Light, so I can't really tell you on his uploading tendencies right now.
Mission begins in 30 seconds. Mission begins in 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Defend our cause.
Nice grenade. That's great.
Thank you, laborer.
So I'm gonna try this. I think you can actually do. I like that this cloak buff actually works with the Den Ringer too, with this revolver. Nice.
Stand next to the bomb.
Yeah. Glad you're having fun on that game. I'm glad there's like a ton of content that like there's just a ton of stuff, and it's like we talked about lasagna, the whole PvP, or just in this case player interaction, because you don't have to be competing against each other, but you PvP in terms of playing against other players, like that itself can be just like an endless source of content just overall. Oh yeah. I think Michael's bringing P plus tonight, and I'll bring my melee GameCube setup, by the way. Wow, 200 hours, jeez. I mean, that just sounds like, yeah, a lot of good content. Just overall, it's a lot of good detail. Is it like is it a $60 initial price? Okay. I will say, it's still interesting to me that a mainline Final Fantasy game is an MMO. I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's just obviously, I'm not, when you say it's 200 hours of campaign content, that's a good sign. Because if you're going to be a mainline Final Fantasy game and an MMO, I would hope that the single player doesn't get cut. And it sounds like it wasn't, so. Now, do you feel like 14... Hopefully, I don't want to say the servers will ever be shut down, but let's say that Final Fantasy XIV had its servers shut down for 6 months, and someone wants to play through every numbered Final Fantasy game. Can they still play 14?
Additional time.
Dispenser down.
That's so cool. I love hearing that. That's a good way to do it. Make it a Final Fantasy first and then an MMO. Yeah. It's really cool. Alright, now let's do that for Final Fantasy 3. That's my favorite. Shot. I'm just obviously worried about in the far future, someone, you know, if someone wants to make a I played every Final Fantasy mainline game montage, or if they wanted to play every mainline game and like just give a review of the whole series, mainline series, I would be worried if the MMO portion is like the life support or like the life, and if that gets shut down, you can't play the campaign, you know? But you know what? Capcom recently did that. There's this game called Mega Man X Dive, and it was like a mobile game, but it was actually a pretty awesome mobile game overall because it was a celebration of the Mega Man series entirely. So you could play as Mega Man from Battle Network. You could play as Zero from Mega Man Zero, and that his incarnation there, or like his. You could play as Zero in both the X and then Zero timeline. Zero's like 200 years later. Anyway, you could play as, like, you know, Mega Man, Volnut from Legends, all these characters. And then they shut down the multiplayer servers, but they released it as a full game afterward. So now, if you want to go back and play that basically celebration of the Mega Man series, you can. And you don't have to be online anymore for it. Yeah, I was kind of picking up. It seems to have very good longevity. Aren't they already on, like, Final Fantasy 16? So obviously, a knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, they're already 2 Final Fantasy games away from 14, but I'm glad that 14's still being played a lot. So they might have just struck gold with the multiplayer aspect really increasing longevity so they can keep making mainline games and then putting stuff into 14. As a composer, I am a big fan that I loved hearing the Chocobo theme in 14, and that's it's the Chocobo theme from the early games. I love stuff like that. If there's like any like Final Fantasy music reference in that game, I'm down to hear it. I love it when there's like a remix of like Final Fantasy 1 music, like 2, 3, stuff like that. Like, I love the NES Final Fantasies a lot. I found out recently that there's been, like, new Final Fantasy game, like, there's, like, a new one that has, like, a heavy focus on, like, it's like a remake, but not a full one-for-one remake of Final Fantasy 1, and I saw characters like Garland, and obviously, like, the Warrior of Light and stuff. I thought it was just really cool to see. Because Garland is like the OG bad guy, him and Chaos. So, and yeah, Warrior of Light. I like how Warrior of Light, at least in was it Dissidia or something, the crossover series. But Warrior of Light, just in Final Fantasy, is seen as like the legendary hero, kind of like Link, another like the hero of time Link in like future games. Oh wow. Yeah, I could see 14 just making money over and over for a long time. Okay. Just jump in a voice chat now, and if I die or when the map changes, I'm gonna add you. I'm gonna play for an hour and a half, so. Okay, let me do this. Hello.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
Going.
Good, good. Yeah, so like I was saying, I'm a big NES Final Fantasy fan.
Oh, you know who's a Final Fantasy fan of like the older ones like that? Jade. And Jade has been enjoying the hell out of the game so far. And he's like, I gave him like a teensy bit of spoilers just because he would find it interesting.
Yeah.
And it's, it actually doesn't ruin anything, but he was like, no way, they brought that character back. And it's like a main boss way later in the game.
You can tell me which boss is it.
Golbez from 4.
From 4, okay.
Yeah, and Golbez is a very big deal in and has its own unique story as well.
Yeah, I love stuff like that.
In that. So one thing that this game does incredibly well, besides literally everything, is, and that's not a joke, but like I am, I'm right there to talk some smack if you know, a game sucks, you know. No, this game does roughly everything it possibly can correctly.
Yeah.
And in a healthy way that's like good for the players and the developers.
Right.
The current expansion got delayed because they were like, well, we have to give our developers a break. They've been working super hard. You know, you've seen the quality they're putting out. I'm not just gonna, you know, run them into the ground by forcing them to keep working. So they gave the developers like an entire extra week of vacation this year.
Nice. There you go.
Stuff like that. But anyways, it's one of those that the more Final Fantasy games you play besides this one, the more you'll be like, oh wow, that's from this game, that's so cool. But if you've never played a Final Fantasy game, you're never gonna be like completely out of the loop.
Yeah.
What's going on? it's really well made in that regard. But as far as the story, I want to give you a better picture of how it's like structured. So in most MMOs, you generally like grind your levels up and your gear, and then you can get to like the hard fights and stuff. And then along the way, there's like a little bit of story to kind of, you know, maybe keep you there. In this game, you don't get to do you unlock all of the harder stuff not from just your level but from your story. So you could try and like level without the story. However, they not only incentivize it by making the story give you the best experience, like not even close, but it also is extremely good because it's just meant to be a good game, and then it's also an MMO. So you have to unlock all of the multiplayer stuff, like all of the dungeons and raids and all that extra stuff by doing story progression. Like you can't just skip. Now you can pay for a skip, but nobody ever is ever going to recommend that you do a skip for the story. It's more like, well, if you really for some reason can't stand it, you should maybe get a skip if you're interested. But they made it to where the story is the experience of the game rather than you get through the story to experience the game, you know. And it's just really, really good, and the developers so good. I love them.
Yeah.
Well, the game director especially, such a cool guy. He will, whenever there's like a new class that's coming out, an expansion, he will get on stage and come out in like full cosplay at one of the fan events.
Oh yeah.
And be like, of the new class, he's like, hey, here's this new class, it's super cool, and he's just such a cool guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it has such an interesting story. It has like 2 documentaries about it, at least, because of how the game sucked when it came out. Like, it was just really bad. And then they were like, well, shoot, this is not going anywhere. This won't be a success. What can we do? And so they ended up being like, well, let's just get a different game director. And so they did that. And he was like, okay, we're shutting the game down. and we're gonna work on it. But it's not just they shut the game down. They had an in-game event where like a glowing red moon in the sky kept getting bigger and bigger.
That's creative.
And it essentially was sealing an Elder Primal, which would just obliterate the entire planet. And they had a cutscene where all the forces in the world were like joining together, and we lost, and the entire world got deleted, and then the servers went offline for multiple years. I think it was at least a year.
Years in game?
No, in real time.
Oh.
And then they brought the game back and remade it into what is now called A Realm Reborn. And it actually all fits into the story of the game. It's so cool.
What a crazy, like, successful PR stunt.
It was good, and it was good for the players as well. They were like, we're not gonna keep, charging you for this product that's just not at all what we want. We want to do something better, and they really delivered. Like the base game, once they remade it, it was solid. Like people were like, okay, this is not bad. It wasn't great, but it was certainly a lot better than what we had. And then the expansion came out and won every possible MMO award it could. Heavensward. And Heavensward was amazing. That really kind of rocketed the game up in terms of public opinion and everything, just because of how good it was in general, but the story especially was really groundbreaking in an MMO. And then the next expansion came out, Stormblood. People were like, okay, that's pretty good, but it's not going to be as good as Heavensward, because the story in there, so good. and it was very good. And besides the story, like the extra stuff they came out with was extremely good for the game. But it wasn't a Heavensward hit, but it was still good. And then people were like, yeah, you can't really top Heavensward. And then Shadowbringers came out, and they're like, oh, I guess you can. And so they really outdid themselves with Shadowbringers. That was an amazing time. And then Endwalker, the entire, all of the, because that all takes place over multiple years, like in real time, because you have multiple expansions, things like that. And all of that, they all have their own stories, but there is still an overall, threat. And that threat was essentially dealt with in Endwalker. And so we're kind of like done with the big bad guy, which is pretty crazy. Well, there's a lot of them, but we're mostly done with the big bad guys. And so the next expansion that's coming out it's gonna be really fun, but it's definitely a more, it's not like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. It's more like, yo, let's go on an adventure. Let's find this, like, essentially you could think like Uncharted, let's see, what's the one with Nicolas Cage?
National Treasure.
National Treasure,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. Like, you're going into like a tropical setting, and they have this like lost city with hidden treasures and stuff. We don't know anything about it, but besides that, it'll be really cool. And they're adding a ton of new stuff. They're adding a twin blade class. Looks super cool. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think when you have, like you said, a lot of like money flowing in, that probably makes for like happy developers to be creative and not worry about falling flat with a risk.
Oh yeah, no, it's not really a risk at all at this point. The game is just good, and they will make money because of the good foundation they set up.
It sounds like honestly what people wish Valve did with TF2.
In a way, yeah. I mean, just supporting it all the time, that would be good.
It's just
yeah.
Well, the foundation for TF2 is so good, it makes money on its own, and we're like, Valve, you can take risks, or let the community like just approve a few things and let them handle it. Like, you'll make money. So
They could, but they won't do that.
hopefully, it's just their employment structure kind of counteracts the way that the potential wants to be brought out here.
Yeah,
Someone's just got to make a bold move and be like, I'm not scared about peer reviews. I'm gonna work on TF2.
I'd do it. I'm really surprised they haven't like reached out to the modding community in any way, because those people know the game pretty well, like in and out.
Well,
I'm
I
sure
guess.
they
Oh, go
could
ahead.
help.
I was gonna say, reach out, I guess, is the key word, because these updates are very community driven lately.
Right.
But they're not. I don't know how much they are reaching out. Yeah, I don't know how much a TF2 director is saying, hey, here's our contractor pitch. You could make content for us for like 3 years or something.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think contracting.
That would literally employ like future game devs and get them into the industry if they're, obviously skilled and not doing weird, incompetent stuff with the game. So that's,
What?
I understand kind of they have to trust the IP protection. Obviously, you do have to make a barrier. You don't want people putting in their like cringy random OC into the map all over the place. So there's got to be a filter. But I do think there's a lot of talented fans that could make good content.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. Oh yeah, speaking of fan content, that's something that Final Fantasy also handles extremely well.
Yeah.
What they will do is they will have fan contests, and they're art contests where it doesn't even have to be like there have definitely been a lot of winners who aren't the best you know, not the highest fidelity artists. You know, they're not quite as experienced. However, it's a design concept, not like an official like art piece. And
Yeah,
so it's a design concept for armor sets and weapons and housing furniture, and that the developers, people put it, you know, submit their designs, the developers will be like, oh, that's a really cool design, let's make that. And then they announce the winners, and those like either weapons or furniture get put into the game. And it's really, really fun. 'Cause
That's
some
awesome.
of the ideas are great. They have no shortage of good ideas from the fans. It's very cool. I think this game really should be analyzed by anyone in the industry, especially anyone in like management who makes big decisions. You have to understand the success of the game. You have to understand the community. World of Warcraft. Here's an example. World of Warcraft is not a bad game by any stretch. I guess it depends on what you're looking for, but it is fundamentally based off of conflict between players, not just PvP, but also
The story, yeah, the Horde Alliance.
Yeah, Horde versus Alliance. Like, you are literally, okay, pick a side. You hate the other side. Go to war. Go kill them. Go fight them. In this game, it is the complete opposite, where you technically do pick like one of those big factions. There are 3 of them, but they are more like, well, after the, you know, literally after the world-ending event that incited the Realm Reborn part of the game, which is the base game, they're like, well, we, you know, us big city states have to work together because, you know, each one of us has stuff that the other doesn't. And so you kind of end up with that really loose thread of like general community working together, but the rest of the game is designed to be done cooperatively. So you can play through completely solo. You can, you know, do level all your classes however you want, but it's going to be a lot easier and a lot faster if you have a group to do it with, or you just talk to people and communicate, you know, things like that. So there's combat classes and there are crafting classes. There are a ton of crafting classes. There are also 3 gather classes, and all of them have their own unique abilities. It's not just go click a tree and you know that's it. Like, it's go click a tree, look at what resources you have available at this location at this specific time, and it's like, okay, what abilities do you want to do? What do you want to sacrifice? Do you want to have a potential of not getting anything but with a higher potential return, you know, things like that. It's really in depth. But let's say you're really into crafting, you know, the combat's like okay, but I would rather be crafting. Then you are definitely a big deal to the combat class players. So obviously the crafters, they're going to be crafting all the newest gear that comes out. A lot of it will drop from raids, but if you need better gear to do the raid, well, who are you going to go to? You would go to the crafters. And so if you're not a crafter yourself, you could use the money that there are tons of ways to earn it through combat. You can use that to be like, hey, can you just make me a set? I'll pay you this much money. And there's no way to pay for real gold outside of, you know, directly breaking the terms of service with, you know, real money. But so people will, you know, be grinding out money so they can pay crafters or level their crafters, and then, well, the crafters, they need materials. So, well, gosh, I do have one of my gatherers leveled, so this new material just came out in this zone that's explicitly for crafters and gatherers, so I'm going to go get those materials that the crafters will need to make the sets that the combat classes will need. And then, you know, there's just a lot of that type of interlocking community support. Like, sure, you could level all your stuff, but that takes a long time and it is a lot more work. So, you know, just play however you want and then work together, and then you can all get great benefits. Like there are a lot of things that the combat classes are the only classes that you can get certain things on, certain materials, and so you have to either level those or work with someone, or buy it from the market board, which is just like player trading. It's great. I'm a huge fan of the game design being friendly.
Yeah.
Which is really nice, and it really reflects in the community, because a lot of WoW has an infamous community. A lot of games do. League of Legends, World of Warcraft, just pretty toxic by default, and I think that's due to game design a lot. I think it is due to that, and Final Fantasy has quite the opposite problem, where people are like, this is suspiciously not toxic. Where are the people wishing death upon my family because I didn't play absolutely perfectly for 1 second? It's like, you don't have, like, I literally could not tell you the last time I ran into a toxic player in this game. I do not remember it. It's very rare, not only because of the moderation, but again, if you're a jerk to everybody, nobody's going to really want to help you. Nobody's going to want to run stuff with you. So you're going to have a harder time. So you're encouraged in every way to be nicer to people.
They, I can see that being a theme because they recently bumped up moderation on Pokemon Showdown in the past year or so. Because before a year ago, I had multiple people would message me after I beat them saying some pretty bad stuff. And of course, I would say things like, say hi to the Draft League right now and stuff like that. Smogon/Showdown started pushing a more self-report system, and it was more easy. So I think some people didn't know how to report, but they made it more easy to click on a report. And to me, I can handle people that do that, but I also was like, for every one of me that doesn't take things personally, there could be a kid that just wants to play Pokemon, and then this person could make them really feel awful for months. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna add to this. If this person's being really bad, then they're most likely doing this to other people. And so I started participating when they upped the moderation, and I can tell you, I hardly ever get messages like that anymore. After a match, it's pretty nuts. And sometimes it was people in the game. They would say awful things. Like, I think one big infamous one is I lost to someone. It was pretty close overall. I think because it was close, it threatened their ego, so they messaged me saying, you've played this many games in OU and you're still here on ladder, you should just stop playing. I was like, wow. So yeah, they actually
accounts are you on at that point?
Yeah, that's the funny part. They got reported, and quickly an admin's like, oh, their account's been locked. I was like, yikes, dude, you go out of your way to do that, and now the account, and it had quite amount of games on it, so they were risking a lot there, and who knows how many accounts now have been locked because of bad sportsmanship like that.
That is definitely a big deal with this game too, because I'm sure there are some people out there who are itching to say some mean things, but in a game where you invest thousands of hours to do everything you want, and you don't risk that. You just don't. Even if you're the biggest jerk in the world, you'd be completely stupid to risk that.
There's for sure a natural moderation barrier based off investment, and like you said, a societal peer pressure because it's co-op by design. So yeah, it's
great.
Yeah, moderation is just an interesting conversation itself, because there's sadly people that always want to test boundaries, so you have to enforce and establish those boundaries.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing about bans. I'm not big on an instant ban because I don't take things personal, but if I recognize that someone is really testing boundaries, you unfortunately have to incite some form of punishment.
Yeah, I'm very much on the side of ban if for certain things.
I give people chances, but I definitely have to enforce something if they keep testing that boundary.
Right. It definitely depends. If someone's just being kind of annoying, that's hey man, just stop. All right. But if someone ever crosses any kind of line that I don't appreciate, immediate. I'm just like, no, you're out. If someone is capable of crossing that line, I don't want to see them ever again.
I definitely give a warning, but it's man, it is because this is the funny part is, you know, I'm coming from the angle where since I was in high school, I listened to people trolling Ghost or, you know, people trolling Dale, but those are like narcissists, you know, like that is like they are so awful that it's like, hey, let's mess with this person, they're never gonna change, and it's just endless like funny moments because of their egos. But then you recognize that there are people that there's like a difference between trolling and then people that just are going after like genuinely kind people and they're testing boundaries. And so like you have to just kind of recognize that it's like it's almost like Dale or Ghost themselves are the people doing it, you know. It's like that type of behavior, and they're seeing how much they can get away with. And yeah, you do have to enforce punishment. They keep testing those boundaries, but it's not, you know, like I said, it's not like Dale or Ghost where you just pick a character Dale hates and he blacklists you. Yeah. Giles, Cammys, Akumas.
He's the I don't think it is an understatement to say he has the weakest mentality.
Mentally untouchable.
Mentally untouchable.
Yeah, dude. And the thing is, he was 100% serious with that
And
intro.
he's none of those things.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, what does he think?
Yeah, that was bad.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah, no, if someone's ever interested in a Final Fantasy game and also interested in having a good time and meeting new people, this game makes me very...
You're not the only one, because Temmie Chang, who works on like Undertale, she got addicted to that game.
Oh, it's a good one to get addicted to.
She what was it, like 2 years ago, or one of her friends just said, hey, I play Final Fantasy 14, do you want to try it? And she'll tell you, she's like on her streams and stuff, she said like, I'm not a big MMO person, but she tried it and she plays it like almost every day if she can. Like she'll stay up past midnight and she's like, I'm losing so much sleep.
That's how it is. That's
Also,
how it always is.
I'll be right back. So okay. Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking about what you said about good grounded game design, like a foundation. And I might be doing... Man, I got a few lined up, but I might do another analysis article about something related to that. Because what you're talking about with Final Fantasy about, it's not only is the foundation of co-op, but that naturally creates like inclusivity. And
Yeah.
you know, honestly, there's a pocket example that we've talked about a lot, but you know, honestly, at that last year at that TF2 LAN, you know, the sixes LANs were very isolated because people were across all these different skill levels, and honestly, if you weren't like the top level player and they were like, oh, you got to do this, okay, you're technically playing Demo Man, but it's like hyper aggressive, know every sticky jump Demo Man, or you're playing Scout, but it's actually like DM aggro Scout. Oh, you want to play Pyro or Heavy? They're not really played a lot in this mode in comparison. But then when we played Highlander that night, not only was everyone like, oh, I like playing Heavy or Demo, and they, you know, everyone had a role to play because of like they picked a class. But I mean, you and Eli and Michael all said, man, I wish we could play more, but we had to go home.
Yeah, it's very weird to me how...
And it was still competitive. That's the thing. Everyone had a class they could want to pick, and it wasn't like you have to play this artificially altered format, which could isolate like newer players. But it was just amazing to see people from all different skill levels have fun when we played 9v9.
Right. Yeah, I definitely find it weird that the communities will go on and be like, oh yeah, we're, you know, inclusivity and welcoming people is a big deal for us. And then as soon as anyone has any, like, not even an opinion, but just like, hey, I want to try this other thing. No, that's not how we do it. And it's like, but I'm not cheating or changing the game or even trying to play by necessarily different rules. I just want to try something new a little bit. No, that's lame. That's stupid. It's like, really, dude? Like, that's how you're going to introduce your community? That's who you want to represent yourself as? Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder why Sixes isn't popping off right now.
The nested control factor. You have to play in this like rigid skeleton of like a framework. Like, you have to play Soldier this way, you know. We're gonna do aggressive bans to make sure you don't get creative with like banners and
items and other things.
Mad Milk is banned in sixes, you know.
Why would they ban Mad Milk? It's good, but it's not
because
that
I can
good.
tell you why. There are people that get angry that, oh, my opponent's scout isn't using pistol, I can't adapt to Mad Milk. They're winning the DM now because they're shooting me and getting health back.
Oh man, that would suck if your opponent like got to use all their tools. Oh man. Like, I'll joke about it, but I don't actually want Fox to lose the ability to jump. Like, that is just not fun. It's not fun to play that.
It is ironic how much they limit, they aggressively take away items from like Engineer and Heavy because people get mad if they can't rocket jump and then just get shredded by a minigun.
Yeah, I don't know. I as someone being on the receiving end of everything in the game, I always am like, well, it's not easy. Like, now, there are exceptions. I think some things are easy, and it's really a little bit sad, but that's it. Overall, it's not like Pyro WM1ing into your team. Sure, it's not difficult to do that, but it's difficult to make that succeed.
At a mid-top level, you just get shredded so fast on average.
Instantly. And it's just like, that's what you guys are complaining about? Have you actually, like, tried to do that if it's so broken?
Well, there was that golden post I shared with you a while back where they were talking about, you know, basically we were talking about, like, some Sixes players, like a Demo Man Sixes player doesn't want to comprehend that if a Heavy's revved up, they're going to lose the damage trait.
Yeah.
But see, like a Highlander demo main, they are literally playing the game knowing the factor that heavy is omnipresent, and so they have to adjust accordingly, which I think is impressive.
That's lame.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's ironic that, like you said, some people are scared of like creativity and change. But if you were a scout main and top level Highlander, do you know how impressive that already is if you're outplaying like a mini sentry and a heavy right in front of you? You know, it's like...
Yeah, that makes me want to play scout more because I feel like he just requires so much more skill if you're doing that.
It's literally constant game state awareness.
Yeah, and I guess that's it's a skill they don't really value. So.
Like, to the point that you have to, like, you're listening to comms like, oh, demo took 40 damage, but now you have to, like, find the demo man that's protected by a pyro and potentially a sniper's watching sight lines. You know? And I guess, you know, and I always say this, I do like sixes, but even Banny doesn't like the elitism in it. That's why he's like, why do we have so many weapons banned? He's like, this is literally going to hinder the growth of this format.
Yeah, oh, it will, but they don't care about that.
It does become, ironically, a very echo chamber of, like, and that's the thing, that's another isolation thing, is those sixes players that play that format will continue to get better in that format. So if you want to invite new players in, the isolation is going to get bigger and bigger. And like you said, if they're constantly saying, no, why would you bring a pyro to mid? But even Banny, you know, when I talked to him about it, he was like, yeah, I think pocket pyro's underrated, but it's stigmatized. He's like, there are people in sixes that would be like, oh my gosh, ban that player. Why'd they just, like, rocket reflect my dive? Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, that's so fun.
Yeah, I definitely want to do a LAN in the future, and I'm going to be honest, it's basically just going to be Highlander focused. Like, if I have people ask where six is, I'm like, well, this one's a bit more Highlander focused, but I would positively encourage them to try out Soldier and Highlander. I'd be like, hey, you get to use banners.
What about no bans sixes? That's a good step.
Yeah, no limit sixes. No limit sixes is interesting.
I feel like there should be some bans.
There's footage of no limit sixes. It wasn't as a catastrophe as people made it out to be. I will say there's only been a few tournaments with it. If it keeps going, you do wonder if it's going to be like 4 vaccinator medics right now or something, which it would be interesting to see how that's adjusted to. But it really wasn't that bad. I do think, like Banny said, they need to lighten up on the bans. It's just like, I mean, look at like my pipeline. I remember in 2015, or like what my path was. I went to MU, and I remember I was at the library that fall semester, and I was like, oh, I like competitive Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, Smash Brothers. It's like, does TF2 have a competitive scene? I've played it for a few years, and I found out it does, and then I read about sixes. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, right when I heard all the restrictions everywhere, I was like, what? You know, they're like 1 demo man, 2 soldier, 2 scout, 1 medic. And I was like, why is that the structure? I learned about all these aggressive bans, and then, you know, I start learning about people getting mad if the whip was legal because it would help heavy get to mid, and then, quote, it's not fun. But to me, I'm like, what's not fun? Just go spy. You know, I was like, isn't that like a big part of the game is class counterplay, like the food chain? But then, thankfully, I learned there also was a 9v9 format, 1 of each class, and I was like, okay, whoever like was the initiator of this format to this day, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's just a lot.
I think someone picked up on like 6 is so heavily altered that it's not really lining up as much with like the core like DNA of TF2 in game design.
Yeah.
It's fun. It can be a fun like aggro, like basically like Quake, and I don't want to undermine people's skill in the format. It's just that, yeah, when I watch Highlander, like I said, if a scout's going crazy in that format, like the context there is nuts. Like, you just outplayed all these classes that are designed to counter you, like engineer or heavy.
That is always one of my favorite things, is just being like at an inherent disadvantage, but having the just general fundamental skill of game knowledge and movement, aim, things like that to win.
It's
Feels so good.
It's like it's kind of like how P plus Sheik got a nerf overall, like nerfed overall. And if you're still good with her without like the chain grab, like that's pretty interesting to see play out.
I don't think you can be good without the chain grabs.
I don't mind
that's
if you're
all
good with
she
the chain
is.
grab, but when you play her and like when she's nerfed and you're still doing well, like it's very interesting to see that. And with all these other matchups, so you know you'd have to learn.
Honestly,
and stuff.
if you've ever seen, I hadn't thought about it until now, but if you've seen my melee Sheik, I play melee Sheik like P plus Sheik, where I am very much more so trying to. I mean, my running down tilts kind of get nasty sometimes, but like, I'm more so just like trying to combo with my attacks rather than to find the fastest way to a tech chase or a down throw, which is how most Sheik players operate, because it's really strong.
I won't say most.
Why not?
I'd have to like study the player base right now of Sheik players.
It's pretty sad out there, but that's okay. I really like Sheik. I just wish she didn't have that down.
I saw, by the way, I meant to send this to you. There was a Slippy, like, ranked / Slippy, like, salty montage that I saw recently. And man, the, like, fragile ego entitlement is so bad. And they did exactly what we predicted. Because ranked isn't full public yet and you pay for it, there was someone that said, wow, Fizzy, I pay this much money, and I ran into, they said like Donkey Kong or someone. And I was like, oh, boo-hoo, dude.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna pick Donkey Kong harder.
Aren't you the person that would say like, oh, easy win? Oh, but when you don't win, now you're gonna blame the guy that gave you rollback netcode. And so there was that, and then there was a Yoshi player that was raging, losing to Ice Climbers, and he got he got grabbed, a few pummels, down throw, re-grab, and instead of him recognizing that that is a pretty hard matchup because Popo chain grabs Yoshi, he rolls his eyes, or like he does like a similar gesture to rolling his eyes and goes like, oh, I thought they took out wobbling or something. It was really bad.
Well, they definitely did, buddy.
They did, yeah. You just get chain grabbed by Popo. You gotta be ready for that.
I don't know how you wouldn't be. Like,
But-
how are you not ready for that? At current year, you're not ready for that? Dude.
I think if he had a healthier approach, it would be right after that first time. He should go, oh, Yoshi's the perfect weight to get chain grabbed by Popo. But instead, it was this weird like, oh, Fizzy, I thought you got rid of wobbling. This is how you did it. It's like, that's not his fault.
Yeah, that person is of low intelligence.
I'm not saying that.
I am.
It was funny to see that kind of rage, and I think this kind of also goes back to that, what would you call it? It's like the AMSA grass is greener revisionism of the character. And so I think some people be like, oh my gosh, yeah, AMSA proved Yoshi's viable. But they're not looking at all the like weaknesses of the character, including he gets chain grabbed by a lot of characters.
Yeah, that's always really fun when like low tier players they'll be like, yeah, you know, Mario, I got Mario, I got Kirby. And I'm like, yeah, but have you ever seen Kirby Tech Chase Link? Have you? You haven't.
I like Kirby's tech chase on Yoshi. I have to be
it's hard, actually. It's hard for both sides.
One of my mix-ups I definitely do is just delayed get up attack.
It's really strong for Kirby to just play like Captain Falcon, down throw and then crouch at somebody and shield.
Man, I
Kirby's
felt
grab
like,
is massive.
speaking of, I felt like if it wasn't G-dubs, you were gonna get a lot more mad at my last match versus Falcon.
We're gonna talk.
Because you made a paragraph about, oh wow, Nair just like destroys Yoshi. I don't think it destroys Yoshi, but it's pretty.
No, it does. It's not even like an opinion.
Well, it's a move I have to be vigilant all the time, like proactive about. Like, if I miss 1 second of timing, it's like it's Nair into like fair, like Nair
Does
into
that sound
knee.
balanced to you?
It's a hard matchup, but I know it's a hard matchup. But see, I don't want to discredit G-Dub's Falcon because he did a good job.
It's not him specifically. I think you should discredit all Falcons.
I'm not gonna do that. I could change characters.
And so could they.
I could not get grabbed.
They could also not be that guy. That's one thing that I've always found interesting. People are like, oh, this character is lame. I'm like, what? You're lame. Like, how do you think that any character is lame and then play like, you know, standard Captain Falcon? Like, I don't understand that. Every character can be lame, but it's up to the player, and most players are lame, and
Oh,
so
no.
it's like, why are you guys saying the character is the problem? It's clearly you who's the problem.
I will say we definitely don't align here because I don't see the term lame when I compete. So,
Well, that's also a thing, because it's like, if we're strictly talking like a competitive environment, yeah, you know, like, I do play how you want. That's what I always tell people. I'm always like, yeah, if you want to just tech chase, if you want to chain grab all day, go for it. You do that. And then I'm like, however, you need to understand that if you do that at like a hangout or a, Smash Fest, or you're just getting some beers with the friends, like, and you play like that, no one's gonna want to play you.
you
Like,
can chain
do
grab me in
that.
friendlies.
Yeah. I could also, like, go to a party, not talk to anybody at all, take all the snacks I want, and leave. I could do that. Are they going to invite me back? Are they going to have a good time because I was there? Well, they're definitely not.
Well, this person chain grabbed me, but they stuck around and laughed with everyone for hours. There you go.
I mean, that's the thing. There are people who, and this is most Melee players, because a lot of them don't understand.
Again,
how
we
to
differ here, chat.
a lot of them don't understand anything socially.
Oh,
And
gosh.
So they will not have even that to bring to the table. Like, they won't be good at the game. That's okay. You don't have to be good. They won't do anything interesting. Well, that's okay. You don't have to do anything interesting. But they also won't be sociable or like fun to be around. They won't be funny or have any insight. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, do something. Be a good friend. It's not that hard. Be a friend.
Well, you're only my friend if you're on the PR, so.
True. Actually, yeah. Just be good at the game. That's what I meant. That's the only thing I care about ever.
This is I've talked about this. This is definitely, ironically, I've just never, my whole life, I've never been one to brag or talk about, oh, my dad's on TV, and the exact opposite. I try to gauge how people treat me before they find out. So I'm very grateful that I grew up like that, because when I got more into Melee and I picked up how fake people were and two-faced, and they treat you based on how good you are at the game, I've lived that. So I was able to just pick up on that very fast. It's like, oh, this person is being nicer to PJ because now they're PR'd. It's like, cool.
Yeah. I kind of came from the opposite direction, where I was like, man, why are these people who are like good at the game, why are they jerks? Like, I don't want to be that guy. And so I just immediately was like, yeah, these people are just rude. I don't want to be their friend. Nobody wants to be their friend.
They take themselves too seriously.
Yeah, I was like, well, shoot, I don't care about if you're good or you jerk. That's all I care about.
Definitely some pretty bad priorities to play a Nintendo game like Melee, for sure.
Dude, how are people like?
Wait until you learn about the Yoshi's Island speedrun community. I'm kidding. Hopefully I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't.
Actually, that's a really good point. The Yoshi's Island speedrunning community is really, from everything I know, which I have looked into it quite a bit, very cool.
Okay.
Everyone is really chill. Some of the nicest players also happen to be some of the best.
Okay.
They're just really nice guys all around, and it's a very difficult game to like.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, is it difficult? It's really impressive to see.
And it's like Mario 64. There's different categories, like 100% or any percent.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot, but it's really technical in a way that I don't hate, because a lot of the times, for example, for me personally, I don't see a single thing to enjoy about Marvel, like Marvel vs. Capcom.
Oh, I like it.
I don't like. I guess I see it, but for me personally, there is nothing there. And so, yeah, you could say that game is technical, I guess, but I completely disagree with it in certain contexts being technical. But Yoshi's Island, it is technical, and it's not just static. Like, yeah, you could task it out, like you're not going to, and there are so many tiny little optimizations that you just have to constantly be aware of, and it's just really interesting to see at every single step, because even more than a regular, typical game speedrun, Jak and Daxter, there's movement, but it's not like constant every single second. You have to be hyper vigilant about how to make the most of where you need to go, and direct your path. Like, even as an example, if Yoshi he can stick his tongue out, and if it hits a wall, it'll like kind of go wiggly and really gross. Doing that animation makes you turn around faster.
I didn't know that.
And so you will, like, people will do that every single time they're close to a wall.
Wow.
Because it's a little faster. There's oh my gosh, there's so much shit, but that's just like one tiny one. There's like a lot of things like that, which is really cool.
That's the funny part, is Yoshi being as technical as he is in Smash Brothers isn't even uncharacteristic.
True. He is very technical in Melee. And if I just parry every hit, I'm gonna win.
Oh, theoretically, actually, there are moves you can't parry, like Fox's drill. So.
But I mean, they're not gonna use that because they're just gonna do back airs, right? And I can parry the back air. I swear, that's how some people think.
It's like, parry is rewarding. I've always been worried about people that don't work on like neutral fundamentals and then use parrying to cover that up. Because then if you get to like mid-top level and players understand how parrying works on Yoshi, they could just get exploited.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happened with a couple of Yoshi players. They were having a good time, they parry everyone, and then they run into me or PJ, and it's like, well,
I know the guy you're talking about, and he is a nice guy.
That's not the only person, but yeah, he's cool. I love that guy.
But this one guy that was on the salty highlight, I'd love to see you play him. If he's still being a sore loser, it's like...
Oh, I've absolutely, like, played against those types of people. It's great. Oh, and then the people who project their insecurities and then just show their blind spots and Yeah, they'll if they feel like you're getting in their head, they'll try to like do a taunt to try to get in your head. But oftentimes that could literally be a poker tell.
Like they're just giving you the poker tell, like, oh yeah, you kind of figured out what cards are in my hand. But like sometimes they don't even comprehend what they're doing with that taunt. Yeah.
I have to show you or tell you about. I'll tell you over here because it'd be a fun story.
Okay.
But it is it's something. It's this. There's a player who is very unhappy with everything I told them, and they projected so much.
Is this on Melee?
Yes, as a Melee player.
You can tell me at the party.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you, it is funny though. Oh my gosh, the lengths people will go to just always be right in their head, even if it makes absolutely no sense to anyone else.
Kind of going into Dale territory.
Yeah, a little bit.
I have to work, you don't.
I really, that's one thing those types of people have never liked about me is I'll be very politely confrontational, like it's just my controller that's a problem. Oh, I hate this. I'm like, well, my controller works great, doesn't it? Like, you want to try it? Yeah, how about we just play with that? I'll use yours.
Oh, I like that.
And then, well, a lot of times that's like usually the last step where
you call their
like,
bluff.
No, I don't want to do that. I mean,
yeah.
And then, but a lot of times, it's the character. I'm like, okay, do you want me to play another character? and it's like, oh, well, that stage is so lame. And I'm like, okay, what's your favorite stage? We can go there.
It's Michael does a similar thing where people used to be like, I'm not playing PM, where they buffed characters, so Michael would play them in Melee with that character, and Michael would say, I ain't got nowhere to run. Yeah.
Yep. That sounds about right.
I don't know if he ever said it to them in person, but that's his like mentality. He's like, where are you gonna go now?
Yeah, it's like, what's your next complaint? Come on.
Man. I will say, in terms of like Marvel 3, I just like also that I can play as my favorite like comic book heroes and villains and Capcom characters.
That's very cool, yeah.
I also like that because it's a 3v3, you have to make a dynamic team, and so there's a lot of intricacies of like covering weaknesses and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So
I think that's very cool.
It's kind of like there's similarities to Melee, where like there are mechanics that can cover a character's weaknesses, or like assists and stuff.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds.
Which I could talk about that all day. I like when mechanics can help cover weaknesses. For example, right now, I don't know if you heard, Lily is the only, I guess, character in Street Fighter 6 that doesn't have an invincible reversal right now.
Oh, she's bad.
Well, I don't think she's bad, but instead of me ever saying like, oh, I don't have an invincible reversal, there's my excuse, I'm like, well, I have Wake Up Parry. So I've been really trying to hone Wake Up Parry lately. Kind of like I remember Hugo and Alex players in Street Fighter 3, you know, like they had the universal parry mechanic, so it helped them against projectiles. So I just like stuff like that. Or DK and Game & Watch will use Light Shield as like a weakness compensation.
Yeah, like I don't. So this is something that I'm just like, how do people not recognize the value in this? Like, oh, why would I play DK when I want to play Fox and get good at Fox? It's like, that makes sense in a way, but then you're like, well, at what point has Fox like forced you to be like, okay, I have to get really good at this fundamental thing in order to succeed? He's never asking you that, because Fox is good at everything, and that's not an opinion. That's not a joke. Fox is strictly good at everything. He's good at everything. Without question.
I'm gonna add, I have noticed that in his like not being, he's not like an omni good character, but he's very, very strong. So what I'm saying is, in what his weakness is, which tends to be like, you know, getting chain grabbed by characters like Marth, there is that sliver of even like the most arrogant, delusional players, because there's an exploited weakness in Fox with the chain grab, they are starting to creatively go, okay, what stages or what counterplay can I do? But I know what you're saying about if you don't work with your limitations, how can you hone your creativity in this kind of like outlet?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And it's like, what do you plan to do when it's when you're put in a situation where somebody's like, yeah, you better be good at this or you will lose, and you're not, because you've never once put yourself in a situation where you need to practice that.
And let me tell you, it's another thing I want to bring up. I brought it up earlier on the stream when they did that top level stock only Highlander match. Like, both spy players were insane, and like they were playing all stock. But as a pyro main, I'm watching it and I wasn't even shocked, because I'm like, dude, there's a dedicated bodyguard pyro as like the default game plan on all of these matches. So if you're a spy at a top level, what's that say about you as a spy? Like, you are so like aware of your surroundings all the time. You're doing all these trick stab plays. You're using your gun. Yeah.
Oh, that's lame.
So, you know, I love watching like top level spy, because there's all these, and look how high communication is in 9v9. Like, they're all on the mic. You're required to be on the microphone. So when you have 9 people on the opposing side saying spy over there, how do you bypass the grinder? You're basically, these spies are basically forging themselves through the grinder and coming out as like just insane players overall, you know?
Yeah, exactly. What do you think I'm doing with like playing Kirby in my, oh my god, my unranked MMR, which I hate that they use the term unranked when it is ranked.
In Slippy, there is a hidden rank.
Game.
I know there. Oh,
every game does that, because it's about these days it's not about skill-based matchmaking, it's about engagement optimized matchmaking. But I still think skill-based matchmaking is a flaw. But anyways, my MMR in unranked, it's unbelievable. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I'll run. Like, the other day I ran into Ginger and then Axe, or not Axe, Hax, the Fox player, like just back to back, and I'm like, oh, cool. I guess that's where my default, like, because like if I wanted to like super, you know, focus in and try super hard all the time, I would go into a ranked mode. But if I don't want to do that, I'm like, well, let's, you know, chill, let's have some fun, let's, you know, play a little bit less, you know, stiff, let's loosen up, have a good time. I'd go into unranked. Well, I don't get that. And so it's like Rainbow was, he tried mine recently. He was like, oh my god, it is mean. Like, it is just a mean lobby to be in. I really wish it wasn't like that, but that's what people want.
I never play unranked showdown, because I tend to play rogue teams, and so they'll just leave without anything on the line. But with ranked, at least it's like, hey, thanks for the points.
That's what I get it in unranked. I just also don't want to play money for something I don't really agree with.
I'm not playing ranked till it's public, so.
Yeah, definitely same here. I don't agree. Not that it's about the money part. I just don't agree with. Well, this is going to be one of my hottest takes ever.
Again, chat. Me and Lasagna have different opinions, and that's okay. You can still be friends.
Slippy is the worst thing to happen to the Melee community.
Oh my goodness.
I think it is the worst thing to happen.
I'm gonna
to
say
the community aspect specifically, because as a tool and at like, yeah, it's super good. Like, in terms of functionality, it's amazing. It's incredible work. So I'm happy that it seems at least like Fizzy's able to like make a living off of it, and I think that's great. However, I think the community aspect of it has made things like 5 times worse. It essentially brings in the crowd of people who would play League of Legends. And now here's an example of specifically what I mean. Not directly League players, but more people of the mentality where, oh, it's just like online, I don't care, I'm gonna, you know, be a jerk, I'm gonna be annoying, I'm going to do all this stuff to piss people off because I find that fun. That really didn't happen in Melee before. Not very much at all, because if you did that in person and you were to jerk to people, you're just going to get kicked out, or you're going to face some confrontation. And so nobody was going to do that. But now that all these Twitter addicts can just sit on the game, never interact with another human being, and just it's just such a it creates a hostile community because nobody has ever had to make a connection with another person before joining the community.
I understand the the being behind a computer screen. So there's a term for this. It's there's a lack of social repercussions when you're behind a screen. There's a term for it. It's the same way why people can be really not nice behind like a car window, because there's no social repercussions of what the other person in the car hears.
Yeah.
So it enables passive aggressive people and like sniveling cowards to like say awful things because they think there's not going to be a repercussion. But here's what I think. When you said the whole Slippy is the worst, I understand from that aspect of, because behind a screen ranting on Twitter, making enemies. I actually think in terms of members, I still think that the Melee documentary brought in a lot of bad intentioned people.
Yeah, and I think Slippy has done that like tenfold.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I know that's your take. I
am 100% positive of that.
It's just, man, the Melee clout chasers were and are bad.
I would rather have them any day over like the Uber Twitter addicts, whereas those people, at the very least, the clout chasers who see the documentary and are like, oh, I want to be famous. When they see that, that's why they join it. That's not a good reason to join a community, but I would rather have that than people who don't care at all about people. Because at the very least, if somebody's trying to get famous, they have some incentive to not be a jerk to people. Because no one's gonna.
Well, if you stroke their ego, they won't be mad at you.
Yeah. Well, like that's a whole different problem. However, there is a chance that those people actually will kind of, because they at least have to interact with others, like in person. But you don't have to do that to be an angry Twitter addict, self-proclaimed delusional. There's a lot that you can miss out on if you don't go to actual tournaments in person. And it's really sad to see. That's why a big reason why I don't like games such as League of Legends, Apex Legends, Dota, Valorant, CS. Not that those games are bad on themselves. I think League of Legends is a bad game, but that's a completely different discussion. And also Valorant's a very bad game, in my opinion, but in a lot of people's. But anyways, totally different discussion. That's about the actual game design. I think as far as like a community, it being strictly online is a very bad starting point for a community. I think any online community is kind of like just by default going to be a worse community in terms of like friendliness, actual people wanting to interact, having rampant toxicity. I think online communities are just going to be way worse by default. There is a lot you can do to mitigate that, but I don't think developers or community members are interested in that.
Well, I think that goes back to what you said about Final Fantasy or even TF2, is you have to have good moderation, because RGL is very strict on toxicity. And I can tell you that the pugs I play, I almost never have played with like a toxic player. It's actually pretty amazing. Because I remember playing years ago on TF2 Center, and their moderation wasn't as heavy. And so you had people being way more toxic. But because RGL is, they're all within that Discord, And you know, we're playing TF2 for the sake of we like playing competitive TF2. It's not really people overall here to be like, oh, I want that giant esports check. So you combine that with good moderation, and you have a welcoming environment.
That is just so funny to think that someone's like, oh, I wanna be esports because of the money. I don't think there's much money in esports.
I mean, there's that giant Capcom check now for Street Fighter.
There is.
But we're interested to see if that brings in like a toxic like league player that now has to like can only blame themselves if they lose.
Right. That's the interesting thing, and that's why I think fighting games don't catch on as much.
This is
You can't blame a teammate.
This is my last map, by the way. But yeah, keep going.
Oh yeah, no, I just think it's really funny how fighting games humble people.
Oh yeah.
And silently do it too, because you'll never hear from the people who actually get humbled. They're like, oh, I just don't want to, put in the work to be that good. I mean, if that's your choice, go for it. But I just think it's really funny how I can't blame my teammate. I guess I'll blame lag. Oh, it's offline. I can't blame the lag. Well, I guess I'll blame my controller. Oh, I have this standardized controller, and so does my opponent. Well, I mean, it must be the balance, and then they just get laughed out of the room. It's great.
Well, we need to push that more. That get laughed at. That's why scrub quotes exists, because some of those people are so delusional that it takes other people laughing at them constantly to make them finally go, oh, I don't like that feeling.
Wow, I thought this was an inclusive community.
Yeah, the victim 180. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fighting games are very humbling. And unfortunately there are still people that don't get humbled.
They're allowed to get away with it because of the internet. Because back in the day, the most you had was forum posts, and we all know there were people posting on forums who everybody was like, oh, this guy.
the infractions.
Exactly, and you would laugh them out of the chat room. But these days, it's like, well, I'll just make another alt account if everybody hates me, or I will, I'll just, because people will agree with you just to agree with you or disagree with other people, and so no matter what your opinion is, you're gonna find people who are gonna agree with you and then be like, oh my gosh, I have 1,000 followers and I can't believe that you would disagree with me.
Well,
and it's like, okay.
Another thing I'm going to add, because we talked about this years ago, another heavy alteration of forum interactions and just being a productive community is the introduction of liking comments. And so,
I hate that. Yeah.
Like Reddit upvotes or Facebook liking comments, that has altered the way people post and interact. And now they're like, there's a fallacy of, oh, I have more likes, or this person has more likes, thus their point is more valid. But back, like you said, back in the day with just like forums to its core with actual moderators, they didn't, a lot of them didn't have like, oh, someone liked this at first. And then I noticed as time went on, even Smashboards added a comment like thing.
Yeah. And I think Reddit is the worst out of all of that, because if your comment gets enough downvotes, it just gets like buried and hidden.
It does get buried. Oh yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
So
it's literally just encouraging echo chambers to the highest degree.
Right. And the sad part is sometimes that can be a good thing if someone's being an awful like racist or something, but like you
That's
said,
when you would have a moderator.
A moderator, yeah, exactly. You get a moderator, so they want to like, that's basically an auto mod they're trying to do there, and they're willing.
Yeah.
Well, they're willing to sacrifice someone that might be not even contrarian, just contrarian to that current subreddit, but they might actually raise a good point on something. It'd be like going into a committed sixes TF2 Reddit and saying Pyro is an underrated pocket character, and people downvote it.
I love playing support Pyro.
Well, my time zone is 1:45 p.m., so it is early afternoon. But welcome back.
Oh, I think I'm gonna level my culminator.
I am definitely, as you saw, I am bringing some snacks tonight.
Ooh, yeah. I didn't see many. I think sour cream and onion chips.
Yeah, family size. And then I'm bringing those Target mint fudge cookies, 2 packs.
Nice.
Yeah, they're really good.
Michael's bringing stuff, I heard.
I don't know what he's bringing, but I guess I'll find out in like an hour.
Yeah. Oh man, I love. So I prefer in Final Fantasy. I play only tank and healer usually. Just because it's things go a lot smoothly. You know, like imagine you're playing Overwatch and you I'm sure you know how it is, but you generally play Zenyatta, but you're like, oh man, this tank. Really wish I was playing tank so I could do these things better to make the game go better. I wish the tank knew those things. And that's exactly how it is here, where it's like, really? Come on, dude. You can do better than that. But it's like, you know, I'm not being rude about it. I'm just more like, I really wish I was on tank so I wouldn't have to be in such a slow group. Because tanks really dictate the speed a lot of the time. It's just really, really fun to be like, yes, we won because I did my job properly. Whereas the DPS, they generally just are there to make things go faster. And I would rather things go slower and get a win rather than go really fast and probably lose a handful of times. So I generally don't play DPS for those reasons. However, there's one class I've been really liking, and it's a monk, where their whole weapons are their fists and their feet, and they just punch and kick. You just, like, once you get higher level, like, you have all these different combos that get started, you just, like, start breakdancing on the boss to get, like, crazy combos, crazy damage. Like, it's such a fun class. I'm super excited. But Jade's loving Ninja.
Oh yeah.
He's saying it's like playing as Naruto. Because you have to do, essentially you just have to do you have three different like hand symbols you can do, and if you press them in certain orders, like certain orders will give you certain abilities. So it's like, oh, I really want to damage over time, well I'll do like 1 3 2. Okay, well this one for the single target attack I'm gonna do 1 1 3, you know, something like that. So you get to like memorize all these combinations of them, and if you mess them up, it puts a bunny on your head. It's really fun.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting class. I can't wait for Jade to get a little further because Ninja gets crazy. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he's like so into it, but then he was telling me how he loves the old Final Fantasy games.
Well, it sounds like classes from Final Fantasy III when they introduced it to the series.
Absolutely, they have a lot. There's Paladin, Warrior, Dark Knight, Gunbreaker, White Mage, Scholar, Astrologian, Sage, Monk, Dragoon, Ninja, Samurai, Reaper, Bard, Machinist, Dancer, Black Mage, Summoner, Red Mage, and Blue Mage. And they're adding Pictomancer, which is really interesting. You literally like paint and draw things that come to life as attacks. And then they're adding Viper, which is a dual blade, where part of the character's whole thing is to like separate the blades and do different attacks, which looks really cool. We don't know much about the classes yet, but they look super awesome. And they definitely add a lot from other, like the older games. They'll add enemies, they'll add storylines, locations, just little references and like the names of achievements. There's a lot. It is quite the game for a Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah, it's fun to hear Jate love it because he's all the references and stuff.
Oh yeah, he's been having a great time. It's super fun. He's like the perfect like target demographic for this game, pretty much, because it's not only that, but also he's like, oh yeah, I want like a chill game that I can, you know, still make progress on, but it's not like super hardcore all the time, and you can kind of relax, have a good story. And then he's like, oh yeah, I've been loving the story so far, and he's like still in the base game story, which is good, but in comparison to the amazing literature they do later on, it is really exciting to be like, oh man, you've got so much that's so much better than what you're already loving coming up. So I'm super happy. I love Jade.
He's a cool guy.
We're trying to get I don't know if Colin would be in on it. He might be. We're trying to get Colin in on it.
Ball and Colin.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm talking about K Willie.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we're trying to get him in on it, and his computer probably can't run it right now, so that's the reason. But yeah, oh my gosh, and Jade's still on the free trial, which the free trial is ridiculous. First off, there's 0 playtime restrictions, so you could just play on free trial forever. But also, you get to play the game as if you had the base game, the first expansion, and the second expansion, all for completely free, with no other restrictions besides, you know, you can't trade with players to prevent bots and stuff. You can't trade with players, and you can't join like a guild, essentially, but that's it. Those are your only real restrictions. Otherwise, you can just play the game completely normally, completely free, and you get amazing, tons and tons of content, like hundreds and hundreds of hours of content. Wow. And it's so interesting how there's such a generous, you know, price structure. Because with Destiny, well, the game is free to play, but you have to buy every expansion individually, and you have to buy seasons. You have to buy dungeon keys now, which are, in order to do dungeon, you have to buy a dungeon key. It's a one-time purchase, luckily, but they've really gone off the rails with some monetization.
Really?
I guess not off the rails, but very in line with what you would expect from from a cynical modern gaming point of view. They're very much in line with that, and it's really sad to see. So I'm probably going to be done with that game pretty soon.
Wow.
But like with this game, it's just buy the expansion and you get everything, and or don't buy the expansion, you get most of the things. Such a cool game. And I get to be a cute lady. I usually don't pick girl characters, but this one is, unfortunately, the male version of this race is like really big and beefy, and if they weren't so massive, I would play them, but I really like the female version. I like their style, and they look pretty cool too. So.
Well, I'm glad you like playing as Heavy.
I love playing as Heavy. Heavy's awesome.
He is awesome. I still think about that video set where he really is one of the best designed tank characters.
He's so good. He's so good. Because he's not oppressive in any way, but he's pretty good at everything.
And he's in a game that's designed to be hyper offensive, so you can die so quickly to like a spy or sniper. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, a lot of times tanks will be designed to like never die, and then it's like, I mean, I guess that is their job, but it's also like, I don't know, if by design it's hard to fail, I feel like that's poor design in that type of game.
I like the analogy that Heavy, this is a different video, but they said Heavy is like a raid boss. But the thing is, in TF2 is that, especially when you get to a higher level, everyone's so coordinated that they're going to mow down the raid boss because he'll mow them down if they don't.
Oh yeah,
So
heavy's my target priority if I want sniper.
Yeah, so it becomes this constant push or shove of like, I mean, it literally comes back to TF2 rewarding game sense. If you're a heavy and they're like, oh, sniper down, you're like, oh yeah, time to rev up. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's if you have a team covering for a spy.
Yeah, pyro.
That sniper's down. Oof, that's good.
Yeah, no, that's the fun part too, is like, that video covered it, is that tanks, oftentimes tanks will go into the category of they don't do a lot of damage, they just sponge a lot of damage. But heavy is that case where he could just wipe out a whole team in a few seconds if you let him. But that's the whole reward, is you have to, it's like Zangief, you have to slowly approach, and if you can get through all the projectiles and stuff, you can just start doing a ton of damage.
I love when people they'll get mad at a heavy. They'll be like, well, I'll play heavy so I get to the easy class. So, same with like pyro. Like, oh, I just keep dying to a pyro, stupid WM1, just no skill. I'll play pyro. And then they try and like, why am I not getting kills?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's like, oh, have you ever heard of positioning or
game
timing
sense,
or
yeah.
communication?
Yeah. Yeah. Or,
It's
you
so
know,
easy once you have the prerequisite skills.
my angle is always, you know, the pyros that hate competitive pyro because they just want to run in and do flames all the time. I was like, well, you can. I don't know how many kills you'll get on average at a high top level, but
yeah. And then people get mad because it's like, well, you tryhards are ruining it, like, dude.
But see, to me, the beauty is that I learned more of how good of a bodyguard he is. And it's like, Medic's in a game where everyone's designed to kill the crap out of each other. So the fact that they have a class that can help the medic out in that case, I think is really cool. You can air blast away the soldiers, you can spy check, you can flare gun the snipers, you can fend away the scouts, you know? In fact, I was just watching that stock match, and there was a play where the soldier coordinated that the pyro's dead on their team, so he just jumped in for a bomb on the medic.
That's fun. I love protecting medic in really fun ways.
Yeah, actually, it might have been a different... No, this was a different Highlander match where the commentators did note that, though. But still, yeah, that's a big play, too. But yeah, I love that video you sent. Heavy is a lot of fun. And yeah, it kind of ironically is like that... It's like that bell curve where early level TF2, I just, you know, I'm looking to mow down and kill a bunch of people. But then at a top level, yeah, that's still the goal, but there's all these obstacles and things. But I think that's a fun challenge. That's also my grappler, Zangief, T-Hawk mindset talking too. I think the middle of that bell curve, for heavy, I think it's players recognizing, oh, I can't just run and gun with him. But then as they get more experience, when your game sense improves, you're like, oh, there were windows of opportunities that I was missing out on. So it's kind of like, I'm actually right now while I'm practicing spy, I'm trying to get better at like just initiating more, because right now I've noticed I've been very calculating with my like uncloak plays, but honestly sometimes it really is, you know, just go in.
Yeah, that's one problem I think I run into on spy, is I'm like trying to be too tactical, and then I like don't get anything done in any good amount of time. Like it'll take me too long to get like 2 backstabs when I could have just gotten one, got out, done some damage with a gun, things like that.
And there's part of that read, like if you want to backstab a scout, sometimes you just have to read them running into you. Like side strafing.
No, that is always fun. I have just started pistol whipping scouts. I'm just like, yeah.
Oh, gunning them down?
Yeah, you're just gonna get shot at, dude. Sorry. Like, if there's like if I'm in a situation like say I'm like on the flank and no one else is around, and I know that the scout is gonna know I'm a spy, I don't even like try to hide it. I'm just gonna start shooting.
Yeah.
Like,
I think sometimes, yeah, like we said earlier, you might go down the pitfall of being too calculating with spy, but like you can see their health. Just shoot them.
yeah, and you can see the health as well as you have a range advantage on scout. For
That's
sure.
actually true. Like scattergun, you still have to approach with. Yeah, spy's revolver is just an interesting weapon because it's actually pretty anti-damage fall off compared to some other ones. I'm not talking about ambassador, but yeah, you can definitely take advantage of like an ironically kind of consistent gun from a lot of different ranges.
Some WoW players in this game that are spamming chat with funny like references. That's cute.
Wait, WoW players in Final Fantasy?
Yeah, because a lot of them switched over and they're like, oh, I remember this. I used to, you know, blah blah blah. DJ Khaled has some interesting quotes.
New quotes or older ones?
Just a lot in general, just in every way. He is quite the character.
I can tell because how much you used him ironically as a username.
DJ Khaled 420 $$ used to be a go-to password.
You're just outing your password that you used to use.
Yeah, he was DJ Khaled 420 $$. My old email, my very first email ever, I made when I was like 9.
Yeah.
Was Club Penguin 48 at Yahoo.
There you go.
I loved Club Penguin.
That's similar to Banjo 47.
Oh, was that yours, Banjo 47?
My first username ever. I wanted Banjo on RuneScape in 2003. But that was taken. Darn, probably an instrument enthusiast. So it recommended a bunch of numbers, and one of them was 47.
My my first username
Yeah.
was Mr. Johansson.
Oh.
Don't know why
Huh.
9-year-old me thought Mr. Johansson was a good username, but it was like at least a decade later that I realized where I came up with that from. And that came from Finding Nemo. The kids are playing around with like the flounder, and then one of the dads, because they like wake the guy up and they like hide on his blind spot and they're laughing about it, and then one of the dad fish is like, Sheldon, get out of Mr. Johansson's yard now.
Oh my gosh, that is
and
a
that
deep
name
cut.
stuck with me
Yeah.
for some reason.
No, I like that. I like deep cut usernames like that. Like when I found out that like Lycans, the melee player, was from like Homestar Runner, and it
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was like a Stinko Man reference or something.
Yeah, that is such a good reference.
Or PJ with Mr. Hooey.
Mr. Hooey's great.
I mean, that's just like a close friend reference, like going to Nebraska for Pokemon. So
Mr. Hooey #2.
yeah, yeah. My quick like timeline leading into the username I've had since 06 was literally Banjo47 and 03 with RuneScape, and then on my DS for a little bit was just there wasn't enough character space, so my username was PD Piran, no space. And then Metroid Prime Hunters comes out, and they don't allow a space in the in-game username, so it was Spire_fan, all caps. And
Well, that's a pretty good username, I think.
I've had that since 06, and it just so happens that when I queue up with that username in that game, Spire's like foot is right above the underscore, like it sticks out of the box a bit. So it's like I didn't mean for like the synergy there, but I was like, oh, all right.
I do need to get that set up.
Yeah, I think you'd have fun. It's like I said, it's kind of like an old school fighting game now where a lot of the veterans stick around. We've had some new players, but I actually think you could, obviously, I think you would hold well against the veterans once you learn the mechanics and stuff.
Yeah. I've never seen that as a problem. After like,
Which is a good mindset to have. I'm the same way. I don't feel discouraged by skill. I'm like, oh, let's play. You know?
I think it came from when I was a kid. The only people I had to play the games with, well, it was mostly Smash Bros. But we also played a bunch of other games.
Uh-huh.
The only people I had to play were older than me, because they were my sister and her friends. And so I was like, well, these people are really good, and so I just got to get better, because otherwise I don't have anyone to play the game with. And then I was like, well, now after I've done that, like when I got into Smash and I was like, oh, you'll probably beat me. After I did that, I was like, oh yeah, like these people will beat me, but it's just like before, who else am I going to play the game with? So now I had to adapt to that learning curve. And I feel like as a general rule, I have significantly conquered that learning curve.
Okay.
So now I'm just like, what are you gonna do? Be really good? Okay. I have proven that to everyone, but especially myself, that I can adapt pretty quickly and get really good at a lot of things. And I have really good mechanical skill that I've had to develop over the years, and so I'm just like, yeah, I'm set for learning anything.
Yeah, you were, as we talked about earlier, you were forged through the grinder. and came out with a stronger mentality for taking on challenges like those top level spy players.
That's another problem with a lot of online games, is that people are never put in situations because of things like skill-based matchmaking. Nobody is ever like pushed to be better, and so they only ever see people at their level. So if they don't like really go out of their way to be like really, try and improve and stuff, they're never going to see a higher level of play, because it's never going to be asked of them, because everybody else is going to be doing the same dumb strategies that noobs would do, and no one's ever going to exploit that because, well, maybe you will get one person to do that, but then your next lobby is just full of other noobs, and it's like you're never gonna learn. And that's just how games are played now. So
I do need to tell the chat I had to be educated on what he means by skill-based matchmaking, because I came from a Pokemon Showdown ranked approach where they're like,
yeah.
you know, like, here's your elo, you are playing ranked. But then he showed me like the Call of Duty, Activision, we're scared of people losing and leaving our game weird, like pandering in unranked. I was like, uh-oh.
Oh yeah, it's in every unranked mode. Like true unranked modes don't exist anymore. Like I literally could not tell you of one.
I would.
That's from like a modern game.
You did say like there are games that just don't even have community servers, like TF2, so you couldn't go into a jungle. Like this is a perfect example. I have new people that join these streams, and they're like, I'd like to play it. I'm like, okay, you can join Uncletopia. I'm like, it is mid to top level, but don't let that discourage you.
Yeah, no, it'll be tough, but that's
overall.
like if they get used to playing this and then they go and play like casual, they're just gonna do so well. But you know, that's I guess not a thing people value.
It is interesting that companies are like, oh, we gotta cater to poor sports.
No, exactly, because if somebody's upset that they're not winning, and they can't directly pay to win, like pay for a stronger character or something, then they're gonna just stop playing the game, because that's what people are conditioned to, and that's what I don't like. I don't like accessibility as a default, like just all the time. I don't think accessibility is always good, because accessibility means pandering to those people and catering to what they want, and I don't think those people should be playing video games. I just don't think they should.
Wait, what do you mean accessibility? Like
making things as accessible to everyone as possible. Now,
what about colorblind
it's
mode?
Right. If it's something that is completely harmless, like colorblind mode, or
I'm just
some
saying, yeah,
other
be careful when you say
system.
that, yeah.
Yeah, some type of sense. I would assume anybody listening is going to be reasonable. You know, I feel like that's not a thing I should assume anymore. You know?
I just like imagine in 6 months you have like a hater going through my broadcast and trying to take it out of context.
6 months? You mean 6 minutes?
Jeez.
But no, there are a lot of people I don't think belong in certain communities because of their values don't align. For example, it would make, I think everybody would agree that pay to win does not belong in fighting games.
Right.
But if imagine the whole fighting game community was like, oh, we have to be as accessible as possible to everyone, so you know, let's just give them what they like. You know, what's wrong with that? You can still play by your rules. It's like,
Are you talking about modern controls?
well, more like not modern controls, more like what's it called, dynamic or something, the other option. It's not classic, the other one that literally is like a one button game.
I don't, Street Fighter doesn't have it, but I know there's
does.
Wait, what?
Street Fighter absolutely has
Street
it.
Fighter 6 has a third control option?
Yes, it's not classic and it's not modern. It may
I didn't know there was a third one.
Yeah, it may only be offline.
There was something in Dragon Ball Fighters where it was like a one button auto combo.
Oh, that's just
mode.
default for every character.
Okay,
And I don't
stop.
think- No, that's not a joke. Like, that is literally a function of the game.
But they made a control mode that was like, don't do any of the inputs, basically.
Yeah, and that's what Street Fighter has, not only with modern, but also, I think it's called dynamic. Let me look this up.
Yeah, I don't know about dynamic.
Yeah, it's called dynamic. But it's not necessarily about that. It's just more like, you know, this is another one that if you were to just put it on a headline, it'd be, oh my gosh. But if you were to actually have a discussion, think about it, it makes a lot more sense. We really need gatekeeping. We need more gatekeeping, and we need more bullying. And, you know, here's the thing. With what I am actually saying, you would even agree that, because when I say bullying, I don't just mean find some random thing. Oh, this person's
Well,
not good. Everyone laugh at them.
You're talking to the guy that growing up would bully the bullies only. Like, I don't want to bully innocent people. I want to bully arrogant people that don't listen, because it's one of the only ways that they'll change. Like,
Exactly, but nobody agrees with that anymore. And so you can't be even remotely rude to anyone, regardless of what they have done, what they ask for, you know, the way they treat other people. You have to be super nice and respectful all the time. And I just completely disagree with that.
Well, I don't want to stem into like what words are allowed. I'm consistently not wanting
it's not about that. It's more just about behavior, not like specific words.
I will say there can be a manipulated system where a bully can 180 to a victim if you're calling them out.
Exactly. And that's a very common, popular thing because they're going to get away with it because, look, I'm the victim, everybody. They're making fun of me. And
Yeah,
it's
they
like,
can alter the truth. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we just need to gatekeep those people out of communities. Like, that's what I'm talking about. They don't belong because they just don't share common values. Although the thing is, now they kind of do because that's becoming like the norm. And so I guess maybe I'm the weird one.
Well, I brought up how healthy TF2's RGL scene is because of heavy moderation. Yeah. Because let's be honest, if you enter top level Highlander, you pick Pyro, and you get toxic that you can't just run in and flame, like literally, then you're gonna get made fun of, and rightfully so. Like, you're being toxic. You literally approach top level with with your own expectations. The expectations aren't met, you get angry. You're gonna get called out, and those people tend to get filtered out. RGL's got a pretty strict system about that.
So let me read you what dynamic controls are.
Okay.
This is from PCMag.com.
Okay.
Dynamic. Well, here's how the title for their little sections. It's classic controls, the layout for fighting game veterans. Modern controls, the control scheme for intermediate players. Dynamic controls, the setup for noobs.
Oh no.
If you don't know anything about fighting games, this is the control scheme to check out. Just like modern controls, dynamic controls boil things down to attack strength, but it's also so simplified that it lacks a special move button. Your character does cool attacks whenever the game thinks it would be useful, depending on where you are on the battlefield. In fact, you can activate powerful critical arts with a single button press. Having so little control over your fighter is pretty frustrating for serious players, but casual players may enjoy these ultimate training wheels.
That's right. Now I'm remembering, like you said, there is something where you can't take it to like ranked or online.
Yeah, you can't take it online, it looks like.
But
I've only really played multiplayer offline. So,
but you invite your friend over that almost never plays Street Fighter, and that's what they're trying to cater to. The only problem with that is it can create bad habits if they want to keep playing Street Fighter.
Right, and I think that isn't the issue with it, because if somebody is just trying to even understand what the game is and they have no knowledge, then even modern controls aren't going to be super great. They'll be all right. But dynamic controls are interesting for showing someone what the game could look like, you know?
Yeah.
But my problem with it becomes then they realize, oh wow, I want to do this critical art, or I want to do this awesome combo I just did. How do you do that? Well, you gotta put in a lot of work. You gotta grind a lot, and then I feel like because of how extremely easy it was to do the combo on dynamic controls, they're gonna be like, well, why would I learn that? And then when they're like, well, there are these reasons, and it's like, well, that's too hard. So I feel like the people who would enjoy dynamic controls would never enjoy classic controls because they'd never want to get to the point where they improve. So I don't think dynamic controls should exist.
This reminds me of the fateful warning I got going into college from one of my friends I knew from Pokemon League. He was a few years ahead of me, and I was talking about how I'm going to college, and him and this other guy named Jeremy Young, they gave me so much good advice around the same time. And one thing they said is, stay on top of your studies, and like they were basically like, dude, read, stay on top of your discipline, because high school conditions you to get used to test reviews, and usually those are like, oh, this is what's basically on the test, and you can look at this a week before. Yeah, college doesn't really have that. college is going into classic controls. You are like you're gonna have to fortify your knowledge and then recite it on a test now. And if I didn't have that warning, who knows how better or worse. I think I would have done a bit worse, at least initially. So I was helped out. It's like someone saying, I'm gonna teach you classic Lily, not
Watch out for Spy.
that control. You're watching. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's it's the culture. There definitely can be a catered culture, and like you said, we're going down that pitfall of companies are like, well, now if we go back, we're scared they might not even buy our game.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it's also really hard to push back against like accessibility, because it's like, well, what's wrong with letting bad players play the game? You're just an elitist who only, you know, and all that stuff. I'm sure you know what people say. And I'm like, no, you just are, and it's hard to say because people are just so ignorant that they don't understand what they don't understand. And so it's like, it's kind of hard to take that point, even if I'm right. It's hard for people to
the pride.
To agree with
oh
it,
no,
it's like nobody's going to admit that they're wrong. And then if I tell someone, hey, you just don't understand this topic well enough to have like an informed opinion on, they'll be like, oh, see, elitist, you don't even think I should have an opinion. And I'm like, oh my god, holy medic save, wow. Your medic is so good.
Oh, let's see. I think it's.
You were at 9 HP.
We got 2 medics, so. But
regardless of who it was,
they both seem to be doing very well.
Such a good. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Do you notice I changed my layout so you can see metal now? Because I know you were wanting to see that.
Oh yeah.
Metal management. It is important. Actually, that's something I've noticed kind of lost in some modern FPS is ammo and metal management, like that kind of resource.
Yeah, I think on a lot of games it wouldn't make any sense with how a lot of them are designed. But for TF2, obviously, it's really great. Overwatch could have been like that, but then they really spec'd into Sixes players, essentially, where every character has to be a hyper DPS, super mobile, you know, like all this, and it's like, that's fine, but as soon as they start putting a lot of characters in the game who are hyper mobile, well, then that kind of becomes the game. If you can't keep up, well, then you're gonna fall behind a lot.
You did link me that thing about mobile power creep, but I mean, I played through that because, you know, they used to have that defense class role or defense character role, but they underestimated. They've underestimated how mobility to the objective is so strong, and so eventually most of those defense characters got their own mobility option.
Now everybody can Winston dive, pretty much.
Okay, come on.
No, that's not even a joke. Like, you want to know something funny? This is one of the very few interactions in the game that I really, really like.
Winston dive.
No. So Reinhardt can do that now if you have the right setup. So he hasn't changed. Like, he plays exactly how you're used to, although he has 2 Fire Strike charges, and they're better. But he, so what you can do as Lifeweaver, a new hero, he can throw down a flower petal on the ground, and if anybody, teammate or enemy, touches it and stands on it, the petal will raise into the air and it will stay floating for a little bit. So it's really interesting. You know, you could like raise up a soldier, or if your teammates slept and they're about to get like Reinhardt charged or something, you can throw the petal under your teammate to lift them up. So you can do some really interesting stuff. However, what you do is you have Reinhardt, like you have Lifeweaver get up on a platform, you have Reinhardt jump and use his super, and before he hits the ground, Lifeweaver does like his pull, where Lifeweaver can pull to him. He pulls Reinhardt, but then he destroys at the same time the flower petal, and so the game doesn't really know what to do. So whenever it gets to the point where he was at the flower petal, it's like, oh, we just have to stop because we can't keep pulling him because it's different. The ground is missing. So it just launches Reinhardt across the map with his ult.
That's pretty cool.
And it's really funny because he says hammer down, and the enemies hear that, but they don't see anything. and then you get launched, and then you get shattered like 5-6 seconds later.
Gotcha. Wow,
It's like,
I did not
oh my
know
God.
that.
It's funny, but unfortunately, that's not how the game is in general.
All right, man. I'm gonna end the broadcast here. I'll talk to you for like 30 seconds after I end it. Let me end the broadcast real quick. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow for Pokemon Showdown at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. It looks like we're setting up another exhibition. As always, drive safe out there. Snow, sleet, hail, and go Chiefs. Have a good one. Bye.